Willis Newson's been involved in the development of this new hospital since the very earliest stages. We've helped the Trust set up its own ongoing arts programme, and we're here today to celebrate the opening of the new hospital and to celebrate the role of arts and creativity in the new hospital in this three-day festival.
It's a fantastic way of welcoming people into a hospital building and showing them that actually it's a healing space. It's an opportunity to celebrate this fantastic building and for people to find out why we have an arts programme and what does it mean. We've been running a whole series of projects and workshops in the months leading up to this festival. We've been through one of the largest changes this Trust will ever face, and of course staff have been quite nervous about it, anxious about what's happening to their future. So we brought in an oral historian and a theatre director to record people's words and then to express their stories and their memories through theatre monologues that are being performed around the hospital.
The idea really was, we're going to collect all this material, we're going to be recording people, we're photographing people, we're filming people. What does it distill into? So we started doing writing workshops with the staff, both Frenchay and Southmead. Some people wrote about very personal experiences, other people wrote about their regrets about leaving the hospital.
I wrote a little script about brain surgery. It was very touching, very proud, but also it's a very important part of my life that somebody had presented back to me in a slightly different way. I loved it.
Another project that's been running in the months leading up to the festival has been the giant jumper. We've had textile artist Ali Brown running workshops with staff and also going into wards across the hospital. So for instance, she's been working with stroke rehabilitation patients, and they've suddenly discovered that in fact the hands that they thought were too arthritic or too affected by stroke actually do have some manipulation. So people say, oh, I can't possibly knit because my hands are too stiff, and Ali's saying, come on, keep going. And an hour later they've actually made a square which is now sewn into this giant jumper that's on display outside the hospital.
We've been running knit groups from behind the jumper, and it's been really exciting to see people approach the hospital with a big smile on their face. Knitting on your own, there's lots of scientific evidence that's being collected about how it's really good for your brain and for relaxing you, but really the knitting towards something like this is just a great way of opening up conversations.
To get out of my room, being able to go for a walk on my own, even though it be with a Zimmer frame this morning, was just like the best ever. And then coming down to all this, well, it's just a fantastic day. And I like knitting as well.
The other project we've been running since the new year has been the Speed Derby with Assemble and Join. Chris Jarrett's been running workshops making speedy racing cars out of wood, and people have been coming along and decorating them and having little race trials. We've set up an 8-metre racetrack in the main concourse, and people are racing their beautiful, colourful racing cars against each other.
I think what's really important is everyone has a lot of fun, at the same time put that element of real quality behind it. So the track has a timer that times each lane down to a hundredth of a second, so we can really get those times dead accurate, and that just adds that nice competitive edge that keeps it fun, yet people have a sort of a craving for the competitiveness too.
We wanted to bring some drama to the hospital, so we have this gorgeous vintage ambulance parked up outside the front of the Brunel building. People are turning up, they may be feeling a bit stressed or they might be feeling anxious, and the emergency poet is bringing a bit of joy into people's lives and helping people share their feelings through poetry.
As far as I know, I'm the only emergency poet in the world doing this with an ambulance and travelling all over the country, prescribing poetry to help people feel a bit better. At the hospital here, though, obviously you're going to have lots of issues to do with ill health and coping with ill health, so quite often I prescribe them poems about acceptance to reassure them or to comfort them while they're in pain. Because it's hand-picked for them, it feels like a gift almost, and it's very unexpected.
Thank you so much.
Inside the ambulance there are the 10-minute consultations, but if people haven't got time, there is a cold comfort pharmacy which is under the awning, and Jim is a poem medic. He'll give people poems which are in tiny little pills in bottles for different ailments. So there are general tonic poems. We've even got poems for hair loss, but things like insomnia. We've got poetry Viagra, poems for unrequited love, and all sorts of things.
It was something creative, uplifting, and just It's really, really lovely, actually. So I'm going to go and give them to my colleagues.
During the festival, we've got some of the artists from Spike Print running printmaking workshops. So people are dropping in and learning how to do screen printing, and they're taking their very own print away with them, which is really exciting.
With both the activities that we've been doing, there's been some preparations with creative work and then the actual production of it. And so it's a good way of just bringing people together and getting people talking, and they print them. It's all a bit of a mystery, and then sort of the magic happens and you see this print suddenly appear quite suddenly, and that's a really nice moment as well.
Hi Wendy, am I okay to come in?
We've been lucky enough to have writer-in-residence Sue Mayfield visiting patients on a whole variety of wards, working on a one-to-one basis with patients, asking them about what do they care about most in the world, what do they value. She's getting people to focus on the things that are really important to them, and she's turning their words into 14 syllables of poetry. These are being run down to the concourse and turned into prints, and they're being put on display on the concourse for people to read.
This body of mine.
I was really struck yesterday, which was the first day working on a range of wards, by just how many of the things people talked about were to do with people. Contact, communication, people's smiles. It was very non-material what people were talking about, and that was very striking, I think.
Well, that was really delightful because Wendy'd been bedbound. She's particularly isolated, so to have a sort of connection with the rest of the hospital and people go in like Sue, it's given her link to what's going on. It's just sort of had that boost for her well-being.
A really important aspect of the Fresh Arts programme is the music that we take onto wards for patients and staff to enjoy. So we have a whole mixture of professional musicians who are contracted in by Super Act, a national music agency we work very closely with, and that means we get really fantastic world-class standard professional musicians performing for our patients and staff, and we get a whole mixture of reactions from people laughing and singing along and dancing to people being really moved and having a wee tear or two, and it's a really important part of helping patient well-being actually, and giving them a chance to enjoy this real life instead of just being stuck in a hospital bedroom worrying about their symptoms. All of this activity is not just about patients and visitors. It's really important that we look after our staff as well. So they've been working with the artists from Lightbox, and we've run this really quirky little project where staff have been coming along and they've been making gifts.
We're going around the whole hospital with our wellbeing tombola trolley, delivering the prizes to unsuspecting members of staff who usually say haven't entered the tombola, but when they're given their free prize, they're really delighted to receive it. So it's a kind act that someone's made, given to someone else, and there's no reciprocation needed. It's quite simply, that's it.
Seeing the expressions, the kind of surprised and delighted expressions on the faces of some of the staff as they were presented their unexpected gifts, to see that little moment of connection unexpectedly was quite a delight. The festival is very much about supporting individual well-being, but it's also about creating community and connecting the hospital with the communities around it. I think of these 3 days here as like a giant housewarming party, and they're about bringing everybody together in this new building to create a home, to create somewhere that's not just a building but somewhere that people inhabit.
What we wanted to do was for people to be surprised by things. They'd come into a clinic and suddenly they'd come across some music being played, or they'd walk down one of the atria and there would be a choir singing. Have a go at knitting, put a bit of colour on a screen print, enjoy performances and feel that art is part of your everyday life.